Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? Oh my God, is the camera gonna fog up again? It is gonna fog up again. This reminds me of when I go on vacation and the camera fogs up. Let's just see how bad it fogs up. Maybe it'll go away. I'm hoping that it'll go away so I don't have to sit out here for 10 or 15 minutes while the camera is clearing up. To be honest with you, I almost don't care. Last night, I filmed a video out here on the front porch. So I took a walk really, really late last night. I don't even know what time. I filmed the video at like, I think I started it at like 11:20. I think I said 11:26 when I started the video. And it was like a 45, 50-minute video. And so I didn't even start walking until like 12:30, I think it was like 12:45 I started walking. And I walked for an hour and 25 minutes last night. And yeah, so today my body is feeling it. I mean, that I have like been walking every single day and I'm very, very proud of myself. So anyway, it's hot today. Should we do time and temperature check? Okay, so I just looked. The time is 6:48 p.m. and it is 89 degrees outside. I actually wanted to get to the pool all day today, and just now did it clear up, like probably like a half an hour ago. It was really, really cloudy all day today. It looked like it was gonna like thunderstorm today. I was like, oh. I just watered my plants. See, I just watered Farah. There she is, little Farah. And then I watered Fernalicious. She's doing a little bit better. I feel like the back of her is doing a little bit better. So Fernalicious is still doing good. And then I haven't named her. Can somebody name her, please, for me? So I just got done watering all of them. My neighbor across the street, she told me to, I can't see the camera right now because it's not up. She told me to water my plants early evening. She said, you don't want to water your plants during the heat of the day. You want to water them early evening. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what she told me. So yeah, so I wanted to go to the pool all day today, and I just was really, really busy around the house getting stuff done. So never made it to the pool, but it looked like it was going to rain anyway. So I thought, I texted a couple of my neighbors and nobody really wanted to go to the pool. So I was like, okay, if nobody else is going to go to the pool, then I guess I won't either. I almost finished last night. Just made some iced coffee too. I have hardly drank any coffee today. I did a review of the energy drinks that I bought, and I did a haul on my Peter Does Stuff channel. They're called Uptime energy drinks. There was like one that I liked, and then there was like one that was okay, and then the other one I didn't like at all. But I drank like the half of the one that I liked, and then I put it back in the refrigerator. I was like, I want some coffee. I want some iced coffee. The problem is, I love these cups so much, these plastic, like, crystal looking cups that I got off of Amazon, but they sweat really, really bad, and the ice melts really quickly in them. But I like them, so I like using them out here on the front porch. Alex is inside. He just heated up some of his leftover Thai food, his fried rice, of which he has much of, like I said the other night. And he is watching Love Island right now. He started watching it last night. Last night he watched the first episode. He just finished the second episode and he's on to the third episode. I didn't realize that they put out like 8 episodes. Is this the whole season that they put out? I don't know anything about Love Island. I've never watched Love Island before. I watched X on the Beach and stuff like that in the past, but I've never watched Love Island before. I think like X on the Beach, they don't do that anymore, do they? Like X on the Beach is over. I think something happened. I think somebody like passed away or something that was on that show, and so then they like haven't they haven't done it again. When I started watching X on the Beach, I was watching it with Alex. I don't even remember what season it was. I think it was the season that Dave Vaughn from Big Brother was on there. And I started watching it. So if you don't know the concept of X on the Beach, which is, it's interesting because this is similar but not the same. X on the Beach is where you go to this like resort on the beach. They also did one, Adore Delano from RuPaul's Drag Race is on there. You go to this like house, like in the middle of nowhere, like that one was in the winter. It was like in the Alps or something like that. But they go there, and then it's like they're trying to hook up with people, but then their exes are also there, or their exes show up throughout the show. And so it's like, are they going to get back together with their ex? Do they have things to work out with their ex? Are they going to go with somebody new and develop this new relationship right with their ex? And I can remember watching the first episode of it, and I told Alex, I was like, I don't think I can continue to watch this. Like, I feel like this is so toxic. Like, these people were so hurt over their exes and stuff like that, and they'd be like, you know, wanting to like get into bed with this one person, and then the next day they'd be like crying over their ex, and it just was so toxic and whatever, right? And we watched the first episode, and I was like, I don't think that I can watch this show. Like, it's too much. Like, I feel like these people are like working out their issues in real time on this love setup show, right? By the end of that first episode, I was totally hooked. I was like hooked. And I think I went back and I watched every season of Ex on the Beach. I loved that show. But Ex on the Beach pulls all of their people from like Love Island, The Bachelor, Bachelorette, Big Brother, all the other reality shows, like Traitors does. But they're all like, you know, whatever, like people that want to find love and all that kind of stuff. Now, people have asked me to watch and cover for my reality TV channel, my Peter Watches TV channel, Love Island, because Ariana Madix from... Why can't I watched 10 seasons of her, I can't pronounce her name. Ariana Madix, who was Tom Sandoval's girlfriend ex, right? That went through Scandival when he had the affair on her, and then she was on Dancing with the Stars. She was in Chicago on Broadway. Well, now she's the host of Love Island. She looks fantastic. I saw the pictures online, and then when I was like watching the beginning of it, when Alex was watching it, I was like, she looks unbelievable. So yeah, so she's the host of it. So people are asking, they're like, please watch Love Island this season. It's really good. I have to be honest with you, like Ex on the Beach is interesting to me because the exes are involved. The thing that I hated about the show was the thing that I ended up loving about the show. And them working things out. And a lot of them cathartically do work out things, right? Like a lot of them try to get back together and they realize like we weren't meant to be together. And a lot of them hate each other. A lot of them are totally on good terms. But it's an interesting show to watch. I only watch it for a sociological point of view. But like these hookup shows, like, I mean, this is like Love on the Beach is like the Cinemax version of The Bachelor or Bachelorette. Okay, totally. There's so much drama, so much screaming. And what it is it's like, at the end, it's kind of like Bachelor in Paradise. Like, Bachelor in Paradise is like the seedier version of The Bachelor and Bachelorette. I love, somebody commented on my video the other day and said we should just call this channel Peter Watches TV. I've never not talked about TV shows and movies on this channel. I think from the inception of this vlog, I've always talked about TV shows. And I know that I should keep it all over my Peter Watches TV channel, but those are very dedicated videos. That's not like me going in and explaining these things, but whatever. I have fun talking about TV shows. I love it. And I know some of you guys like it too, because a lot of you guys will be like, oh, you introduced me to this movie or this book or this TV show, you know? So anyway, I don't have to do a dedicated video to talking about one book or one TV show or one movie. You know, I can have my opinions about it over here. I mean, a vlog is just, my daily vlog is just me talking kind of about my life. But anyway, Bachelor in Paradise is like all the, like the rejects from the past, but there's also some winners that are on the show too. But then they're not in love anymore, so they're trying to find love. And it's like they date 6 people in like a month in Cancun on the beach. And I love it. It's high drama, right? So, but this kind of reminds me of that a little bit, because this is where, like, at the end, it's like every person gets to, like, give somebody a rose, like in The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, and then, like, the people that are left that don't have a partner are, like, they're kicked off the show, right? And then they keep on bringing people throughout the show, like, new people come on through the show, so you never know who's gonna step onto the beach next. And is this, like, couple that's, like, so coupled up over here, is she gonna, like, leave him because her dream, because they always come in there with, like, the one guy or the one girl that they want to meet, right? And it's huge drama. I love it. The girl that I loved last season was Olivia, and she never met anybody, and I liked her so much. She's like the girl that I would hook up with all my guy friends in recovery. Like, I loved her, right? And so, but Love is in the Air. Love Island, I guess it's like all these people come in this house or whatever, and then at the end of the episode, they have to pick, like, who they want to be partnered up with. And then you can, like, steal somebody. I don't really understand the concept. I wasn't watching it that close last night. But you can, like, steal, a guy. Like, last night I think it was the girls in the first episode. And they can, like, steal a guy from somebody else. And whoever's left is, like, kicked off the show. Like, Ariana Madix, I heard her at the end say, you know, no, I guess it was the guys picking the girls. Because they said, you know, because one girl stole a guy from this other girl. And then the girl was left. And so she was going to be the one that got kicked off the show. Because she had no partner, right? You have to be partnered up to make it to the next episode. And Ariana Madix said, you know, the bad thing about Love Island is when you don't find love, then you have to go, basically. And she said, except, and then she brought these 2, like, guys on the show. And now this girl's, like, all interested. They're all wanting these 2 new guys that came on, right? So it's, like, total drama-filled. I do kind of like the hookup shows, the hookup shows, the love shows, the love match shows that have some drama to it. I do love that, because they'll fight and get mad and stuff like that. It's so funny when you watch it, though, because, like, it's on in the background when I was, like, uploading videos and stuff today, and Alex is watching it. It was on in the background, and the whole time it's like every person they meet, they're always like, he's perfect, like his eyes are beautiful and his abs are perfect, and I kind of like his outlook on life and his idea for this. And it's like, and then the next 2 nights later they're with somebody else, and she's like, I really like his abs, I really like his eyes, his outlook on life is really interesting. It's like they say the same things about everybody. They just want to be in a relationship. They just want love so bad, don't we all? I should give you guys some truisms about love right now that I've learned through the years, okay? So, truism for love is this idea that don't ever settle for less than you are worth. Okay, so these are just some truisms from my perspective. You don't have to agree with them. Completely feel free to disagree with me in the comment section. I have several friends of mine, male and female, through the years that were unwilling to settle. Okay, they were like, I'm going to find the person that has everything that I want, and if I don't find the person that has everything I want, I am worth finding that person, and if I don't find that person, then I'd rather be single. They're now in their 50s, they're my age, and they've never had a long-term partner, and now they're like, I wanted to have kids, and I never had that opportunity. I wanted to get married, and now it doesn't look like that's ever in the cards for me, and I've never had a long-term relationship. I've dated a person here, a person there, hooked up here, hooked up there, but I've never had kids. I've never had a marriage. I never got to have a wedding. My parents didn't get to see me get married, things like that. They're gone now. They'll say things like this to me, right? And it makes me sad for them. I think to some degree, all of us settle. I think I settled. I think my husband settled. I think my friends settled. I think we all settle, right? Because not any person that you find out there is going to be the perfect match. The reality is there is no perfect match. And even if you find that person, you change so much, you know? I remember a friend of mine, you know, got married when she was younger. And my mom was like, it kind of makes me sad. And I was like, I was real resistant. I was like, what makes you sad about that? And she's like, you change so much, especially when you're younger. She was like, that what you want at like 18 is not what you're going to want at 25 or 30, you know? And I know a lot of couples that have stayed together for a long time. Actually, the highest success rate of relationships and marriages is high school sweethearts, which I love that that's the case, right? But you change so much through a relationship. You know, the things you want, the things you desire, the way they communicate with each other, like that all changes throughout your life. You can't expect that when you fall in love with somebody, the day you fall in love with them when you start dating them, it's going to be the person that you're with 20 years from now. That's just not the case. I am definitely not the person that I was when I met my husband. I'm not the person that I was 6 months ago. I'm not the person that I was 6 weeks ago. And neither is my husband. You know, it's like our friend that said, like our family friend that said to Caroline and I, she said, you know, I said something to her, they had just celebrated like their 50th wedding anniversary, and she's in her 80s or something like that, 55th anniversary, maybe it was 60th anniversary. And I said, like, do you guys get bored of each other? And she's like, no, because you change and you grow all the time, and so you get to know that person all over again, right? Like, you get to learn new things about people. I think this idea of, like, you should never settle, I think, like, it has a negative connotation, because it's like, well, I want, you know, a person that has this kind of job, or this kind of money, or no debt, and blah, 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 whatever, but, you know, or, like, is always kind and loving to me, or only brings me gifts and flowers. I mean, it's like this whole like list. Do you remember back in the day? My mom had this friend of hers that she had like this list of things that she wanted in a man, and she would not, like, she had been divorced, and she, like, her husband was horrible to her, okay, granted, but she had like read this book. I think the book was called like the husband list or something, and she had read this book, and so she made this list of like 20 things. She wouldn't even go on a date with a guy unless he had every one of those 20 things. I thought it was so superficial, and I thought it was so vapid, and I remember my mom was like, what do you think about that? My mom was always wanting to like date somebody, and she just was, my mom was like, but my mom also was like, I don't want to be in another relationship, you know, and feel like I have to go to bed when my husband goes to bed, and do the, you know, like, I'm not interested in everything that my partner was interested in. I don't want to do that again. My mother was such an independent woman, but at the same time, she wanted a companion in life, you know, and I think we all do. And so I remember my mom's friend, she like met this guy, and she's like, oh, he's like everything in the checklist, and she like married him and all this kind of stuff, right? They lasted for a little while, but they ended up getting divorced. And then I remember she said afterwards, she's like, he just wasn't what I thought he was. I was like, well, well, girl, you had a list of 20 things. He was those 20 things, right? That's the thing, you know? And so when people say, don't settle, are we getting a package? Oh, we are sure getting a package. Hold on just a second. This might be a birthday package, so for my husband, or maybe me. So hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. It was for my husband. When I turned off the camera, I took a picture of myself. I don't know why. I should use it as my thumbnail. I'm like this. Whatever I did when I turned it off. But anyway, the settling thing, right? Like, this is like the connotation to it. Like, you should never settle. But I think when we think about that, we think about like people that are like violent in relationships, or it's not like you're just gonna like go pick up anybody off the street that you've never met before. That's not what I'm saying, right? I'm just saying that, like, don't compromise being in an amazing, loving relationship because the person you meet might not be everything on your checklist. You know what I mean? I mean, I can guarantee you right now, when I met my husband, there were a lot of things that I was like, you know, he, like, wasn't like this or didn't want to do that or whatever, you know. I can remember like one of the things that was really important to me was that I was with somebody that read. Like, reading books was really important to me. And when I first met my husband, he really did like to read. He read like Augustin Burroughs books and Chelsea Handler's books and stuff like that, right? And then over time he lost interest in reading. And I can remember like we would go to like Barnes & Noble like after brunch on a Sunday or Saturday or whatever, right? And we would like look around the books and stuff. Then he kind of lost interest in it. And every once in a while he'll still read a book. You know, he like, when we go on vacation, he always brings a book. But it's like, he'll bring like that book like blank. They're always like marketing or business books, those kind of books, right? He doesn't really like to read the books like back in the day. I mean, if you ask him today, he'd still say his favorite author is Augustin Burroughs because he's read all of Augustin Burroughs' books. When he puts a new book out, Alex reads it to this day. But, you know, I can remember when that happened, I was like, oh my God, like Alex doesn't really enjoy reading anymore. And he kind of like, you know, fell out of it and whatever. I don't really... You know, that was kind of like this romantic idea that I wanted to sit on a Sunday and read with my partner and drink coffee and all that kind of stuff. I don't need to do that. Like, that's one thing that I really realized through the years is that, like, I can have my own passions and my husband can have his. And one of the things that's great about that is getting to know that other person's passions, you know? I don't know that I would really have this love for electronic dance music, and, like, I love Nora And Pure. Alex is just, she's okay to him, you know? I love Rufus Du Sol. He loves Rufus Du Sol. He introduced me to them. You know, what is it, Fred Again? Like, Alex introduced me to them. I love them. You know, there's a lot of people out there. What's the one I always call? I always say she, and he goes, it's they. What's the name? It's a woman's name. But I like the very loungy music. You know, Alex likes the very techno music. But I don't know if it wasn't for him, I would have ever been introduced to that music. I was just inside before he started playing Love Island, and I was playing this Fleetwood Mac music, and Alex was like dancing around like Stevie Nicks, and he's like, I love this music now. So you learn things about the other person, right? I'm not saying settle for somebody that's going to treat you badly. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, and you know, like for me, I was telling my neighbor this the other day at the pool, because she's like dating, you know, trying to like meet somebody, she wants to be in a relationship and all this kind of stuff. And so I was saying to her, I said, you know, like when I got sober, like I had some rules for dating, right? Like I didn't want anybody that was like a torn down drunk or drug addict. I didn't want them to be messed. They had to have a job, be in school, or have some kind of passion in their life, something motivating them, right? Like they had to be able to pay their bills. I wanted that person to be able to like have a car and get around and things like that, right? Like, or have some way to get from here to there. That person needed to be able to have a phone to contact me with. And one of the things that was important to me was I wanted that person to be out to their family. Because I had dated enough people at that point, and I came out in 1990, I had dated enough people that weren't out to their family. And, you know, that's something I don't really ever talk about on videos because that was not my experience on my end of it. But dating somebody that is not out to their family and like their high school friends and stuff like that, I mean, you are literally a kept secret. And it's horrible. And listen, for the guys that I dated, the guys I dated that weren't out to their families, they're all out to their families now. And two of them had really horrific situations. One of my friends that I dated back in the day for a little while, then we decided we were better friends. Like, he dated somebody for 11 years before that relationship ended, and like his family was like, don't ever bring him home. I mean, 11 years, you share your life. I mean, they were like a married couple, and you know, so I understand it. I mean, I never forced anybody to come out to their parents and stuff like that, but when I decided, I was like, that's one of my prerequisites. Like, you have to be out to your family, because I can't go through that again. Because it was like, if I answered the phone or something, I mean, this is back before cell phones and stuff, you know, if I answered the phone when we were like living together or whatever, I mean, there were people that I lived with for short periods of time. If there were people that I lived with or whatever, I answered the phone, I had to act like the roommate and stuff like that. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore, right? But you know, past all that, like, there are things that, like, I wouldn't compromise today. Like, I wouldn't date. My tripod fell, and then as I was adjusting it, my neighbor started yelling at me across the street and talking about me watering my plants and things like that. And I was like, you were the one that told me to water them. And she's like, in the morning's the better time. And I go, you told me last year, you told me like late at night. She's like, no, early morning's the better time for you if you water it early morning. I was like, okay. So I said, that's basically late night for me. And then she was like, well, I was trying to sculpt it to your sleep schedule last year. That's why I told you. I go, so it's not about the plants, it's about my sleep schedule. She goes, well, it is better if you do it like early in the morning or later afternoon. She's like, but I was also trying to like help your sleep schedule out. But then I was telling her that I bought the cozy mystery that she was telling me about the other day and stuff like that. But then she said she didn't really like it, so I hope I like it. But anyway, as far as like the settling thing, this video's already had like so many stops in it. As far as the settling thing, was I saying, talking about dating people that weren't out and stuff like that. Yeah, I think like, you know, I went through this period and I was like, I'm only, like, I know my worth and I'm deserving of love and all this kind of stuff. And that's true, right? Like, I think we should all know our worth. I think we should all know our worth. And I agree with that statement 100%, right? What's more important to you, though? Like, for me, I've always wanted to be in a long-term, committed, monogamous, loving relationship. Like, I wanted to spend my life side by side with somebody. You know, friends of mine that really wanted to have kids, that weren't willing to have kids on their own, you know, or friends of mine that really wanted to be married or have a wedding. Like, are you so willing to not settle that you're going to miss out on those things in your life? For me, you know, I was willing to maybe not get everything that I wanted, and exchange for having the bigger picture. You know what I mean? And the thing is, this is the weird thing about it, right? Like, when I look back, because who you are, like who I was at 35 when I reached out to Alex and 36 when we started dating, who I was then and the things that I wanted that would have been on my checklist had I had one, which I didn't, or the things that I was looking for, the things that I wasn't willing to settle for and things like that are not the same things that would be there today. You know what I mean? Like, there's a few of them on there, and those were the things that I found in him that I loved, right? But, like, a few of those things wouldn't even be on my list today, you know? And, like, they wouldn't matter. I could care less about them, you know? Like, oh, this was the other thing I was going to say. It's also important for me to be in a relationship with somebody that shares the same philosophical views about the world that I do, I think. You know, like, I wouldn't be with somebody that doesn't look at the world and, you know, things like that. It's interesting because, you know, spirituality and religion is something that, like, well, not religion, but really spirituality. I mean, my husband's an atheist, and I'm not at all. I'm a highly spiritual person. I think the mutual respect that we earned through the years, and that was something that came really early, you know, because Alex was very, you know, clear about he's an atheist, why he's an atheist, and I've always said we could share this story in a video, but when Alex was in high school, he had a cousin that was shot in Venezuela and that was killed. And Alex just didn't understand it. He didn't understand if there was a God, and he had grown up in the Catholic Church, like, why something horrible would happen like that to somebody that was young. His cousin was young and things like that. So he didn't really get it. He didn't really understand it. And he held on to that. And as he, like, looked through things, I mean, it makes sense to me why he feels that way. As he looked through things, like, he didn't find the necessity or the need to have a higher power in his life, right? And it's interesting because when we first had conversations about it, you know, he would say things like, you know, for me, a lot of having a higher power is like a guiding light or having like a moral compass and things like that. And my perspective before getting, you know, involved with him and really hearing about his stance on it, and it's not something that like he like talks about at length or whatever, it's just his stance. Like, he's just like, yeah, I don't think there's a God. That's just how he believes, right? And so when we first started talking about it, because we had a lot of conversations, never fought about it, never was like, you have to believe, you don't, blah, 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 whatever. It's whatever. And what's interesting is that through the years, like, he's so respectful of me and I'm so respectful of him with it that he'll say to me, when I'm having like a bad day, he'll say, do you need to pray on that? Like, you know, like, maybe you should pray on it and things like that with my, you know, going through something. He'll be like, you should really reach out to your sponsor. Like, I think you need to talk to her and things like that or whatever. Very supportive, very supportive. And, you know, and he'll like, sometimes he'll preface it and say, like, I know to you, like, listening to God and what God is saying to you in certain moments is really important. Have you, like, done that? Like, is that, you know, and that's his way of, like, respecting my belief but not having to believe it from his point of view, you know? And so, I remember when we first started talking about it, and I was like, so if you don't believe, like my belief in a higher power at first, and it's changed through the years, but at first it was very much this kind of old school mentality that like your way to an afterlife is through a higher power, which I think a lot of religious people really believe that to this day, right? Like your way to get to heaven is through an afterlife. I don't necessarily believe that today. And I believe in a lot of different things. I believe that reincarnation could be possible and that God might be part of that. I might believe that we come here for many life cycles, you know, and things like that, and learn things each time we come. I think that God is over all of that. God is a whole other conversation for me that we could have a whole, that could be a whole talk. And it's just my perspective. And I respect other people's opinions about religion, spirituality, and God as long as they don't condemn or hurt other people. Like, I'm like, hey, have at it. Whatever works for you, whatever makes you feel safer and more comfortable. You know, I think, you know, I say every night, when I'm saying my gratitude list, I always say, God, I'm grateful for my relationship with you, to have you to watch over me, protect me, guide me, and love me. And those are things I believe in. When Alex and I first started dating, it's like a hair on my nose or something, and I asked him, you know, about, well, if you don't have any kind of higher power and you don't really care about an afterlife, you know, because he was like, I mean, like, it killed me when he said, well, I don't believe that there's an afterlife. I think when you're done, that's it. I was like, oh my God. But then it was a very selfish response. It was like, does that mean that I'm not going to be in heaven with you? But just because he doesn't believe in an afterlife doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I very firmly believe in an afterlife, and I believe that my husband will be there, no matter what his beliefs are. And that's still, and he gets that, right? He's like, well, that's fine, but I don't believe that there is one, right? I believe that if there is or there isn't, what does it hurt to apply meaning spiritually to the things that I'm going through? That's why, I mean, if I find out at the last moment there is nothing, well, then the meaning that I've applied, the lessons that I've learned through my spiritual beliefs have really helped me along the way. But when we first started talking about it years ago, I can remember, like, I'd say, like, well, like, if you don't believe in any kind of afterlife, like, part of, like, I think, and this is, like, for me, early days of really spiritually understanding, like first days of really getting it, right? It's like, okay, you have to be a good person because there will be a day of judgment, and then that's what gets you into heaven. So that desire to be a good person, to be in an afterlife, is what drives you to want to be a better person here on earth, right? Without that moral compass or that desire to want to do more, I don't believe this today, okay? I just want to make that clear. This is not what I believe today. But when we first met 16 years ago, I was kind of there. And I just didn't understand. Like, then you could just be the worst person on the earth because you feel like there's no consequence for it. There's no tallying. There's no whatever. It's just like you can just be the shittiest person in the entire world, and it doesn't really matter what you do because you already know you're not going to heaven. There's nothing after this, right? There's no accountability. There's no higher power to account to. So then you could just be the shittiest person that you want to be on the earth. And I remember when I said this to Alex, like, the look on his face was just like, so, like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, that's not it at all. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, it's not about waiting until an afterlife or having somebody to answer to, some big, you know, omnipotent being to answer to. It's about answering to yourself and looking at the mirror in the end of the day and having to live with your choices and actions and knowing that there's no afterlife. So wanting to be the best person that you can be while you're here on earth, wanting to treat your friends and family the best that you can and go above and beyond for people because you're the one that you're answering to every single day. It's not like you're trying to get into heaven. He goes, it's about your actions today and what you're doing today. And that's just his perspective. I mean, there's a lot of different perspectives on atheism and things like that, you know? I think early on I kind of held out some hope that he might have some, you know, belief down the road, and he's asked a lot of questions through the years. I don't really feel that way anymore, and I don't really feel like I have a need for that. And I'm really glad that that wasn't one of the things early on, because we had that conversation very early on. We had big conversations early on. Spirituality, recovery, belief systems, things like that. And, you know, I'm really glad that we did, because I'm glad that that didn't keep me from being in this relationship, because out of everybody in my life, I mean, I have a lot of people that are very religious. I have a lot of people that I know that are atheists. My husband has by far been the biggest support system to my spiritual beliefs. And as an atheist, that's amazing, right? You know, people ask me all the time. I mean, I've seen couples get broken up over religion, you know, marrying one's religion, how they're going to raise their kids, and it's all that. And I get it, right? Like, I respect that, right? But at the same time, it's like maybe those are conversations you should have before you get together and stuff like that. I've also had a friend of mine that he was Baptist, Southern Baptist. His wife was Jehovah's Witness. And, I mean, they're still married today. They've been married for like 30 years. And the way that they raised their kids was so interesting to me because, like, so they raised their kids as Jehovah's Witness. And I don't know how they made this work, but I can remember it, like, and, you know, parties and stuff, like, she wouldn't show up to, like, a birthday party until, like, happy birthday had been sung, the birthday cake and whatever, and the gifts had been exchanged. Or she would show up before and then take the kids home and afterward. I can't remember how they did it early with the kids. I think, like, middle school, they introduced him to both, and then they let them pick in middle school is kind of how it worked. I can't remember. But he was very involved in his church, and he used to be. And she was very involved in, you know, the Jehovah's Witness and stuff like that. And I can remember how it worked, like Christmas parties and stuff. Like, you know, she would show up, like, after all the gifts were exchanged and the Christmas and stuff like that, and just show up and be present and whatever. It was really interesting, and they never let their religion get in the way. And I don't know how. I mean, those are two pretty diverse religions, you know? So you can make it work, I think. I think the other thing that's interesting is, like, through the years, and Alex and I both have this conversation, like, through the years, things I really wanted in a relationship but I thought I would never get are things that I really got from Alex. That he changed over years, and then he became this person that I really wanted, you know, that I didn't even think was possible with anybody when I first met Alex or my ex or anybody. And he said the same thing, you know, he's like, through the years, like, we have both changed and molded together and whatever. I think there has to be certain things that are, you know, deal breakers going into a relationship that you just, I still to this day, if I was single today, I wouldn't date somebody that was in the closet. I went through that. It was hard for me. It was harder for them. I couldn't be in a long-term relationship with somebody that did that, and I wouldn't do that. But that really, and I think maybe sociological beliefs. I think that's another thing, that I couldn't be with somebody that so firmly believed opposite of me, you know, as far as, like, social issues and things like that. I mean, Alex and I are just, like, on the line exactly with those things. So I don't think that I could be, you know, with somebody that, like, for me, those are things that are so ingrained in who I am, that I was taught, you know, as a child, that I don't think that I could go through that. And it's interesting having been with Alex, you know, and learning so many things of being with him and things like that, like, you know, and being immersed in the Latino culture with his family and his friends and things like that, and really, you know, how he remembers, like, moving here, you know, as an immigrant, and how he was treated and things like that, and things that people would say to him and words that were used against him. And, like, you know, I shared this in my video the other day, like, he wasn't bullied in high school or college or high school or middle school or anything like that. When he was in Venezuela, he was bullied for having big ears, and he would always say, well, they would call him Dumbo, and he said, I don't care if you call me Dumbo, because then I have my own movie. I mean, my husband has always been that guy, right? Like, he ain't gonna let anybody take him down, but he didn't let it hurt him. And his ears are one of the things I love about him the most today, right? And then, but in high school he wasn't really, but he would say, like, people would say mean things to us. Like, they would say derogatory, because he was in, like, the class where he met all of his friends in high school was ESL, English as a second language. And so, like, I can remember when we first started dating, like, some of his closest, because he was in there with, like, his brother, his cousin, and things like that. And then they, like, met so many people from, like, Russia and other places, and friends of his from Colombia and Peru, and they're still really close friends of his today. And, I mean, there's some funny stories that they have, because they all understood English pretty well, and the teacher didn't think they did, and stuff like that. I can remember being with Alex and Maya walking down the street, when we first got to, we were going from one bar to another, and somebody that they didn't like was in front of us, and they were, like, speaking English, and then all of a sudden it switched to Spanish. Like, I picked up on that very, very quickly. By the way, people always want to know how the Spanish lessons are going. They're going good. I'm not talking a lot about it online, because, I I know it's like a big issue. It's a hot topic issue. And I'm, learning. I'm kind of, so for Jesse and I both, my sister-in-law, it was so that we could speak to our abuela, or in-law. And so, it's kind of the surprise that I'm waiting for when I get some things together, but it's good. The Rosetta Stone, I will tell you, is by far the easiest that I've ever had, I've ever, learned with, it's interesting because, Alex doesn't think I'm as far along as I am because I'm not really saying anything right now. When I get to a part where I want to start practicing, I'm going to practice with him and stuff like that. I will also say this, and he would not admit to this, his mother is so great, and his aunt with, helping me and learning things, but, if I say something, and I get it, out of context, or I say it wrong or whatever, then, he gets, you can just tell, it comes over his face, and he just thinks it's, the funniest thing in the entire world, right? Okay, for example, if you're Latino or you speak Spanish, you'll understand this, okay? So we were over there for, I think it was Thanksgiving, and I said something. I was sitting next to Liliana. She's the same way. She's so helpful to me because we both helped each other with, English and Spanish, and I know enough, in context. Where were we where... We were somewhere, and we were talking, and Alex had a whole conversation in Spanish, and he said, did you understand that? And I was like, yeah, and I said, and he goes, what did you, and I was like, this and this, and he's like, how did you keep up with that? And I was like, I understand context, and I know, out of 10 words, I probably know 7 of them, right? So I understand the context of a conversation, I just cannot respond to it that well, I'm not good at it, right? But we were at, where were we at? What was the word? Was it delicioso, or... I don't want to say it if it's something really bad. I think it was Que Rico or something like that. But anyway, I said it, and if you say it one way, if you say, it's the difference between saying, hey, Peter, or Peter. It's the difference between that or Peter. Well, however it was said, I was handed a piece of cake or pie, I can't remember what it was, right? And I said it Peter. I guess I meant it. However I said it, it sounded like it was, the word can mean just you like something, or it can mean in a very sexual way. And Liliana lost it. She just was like, what did you just say to Abuela? And his grandma was laughing too. She thought it was hilarious. So it was this whole huge thing, okay? In the family group text, it's still going on. So anyway, but yeah, I will say the Rosetta Stone has worked better than, and I know it's more expensive, but the Duolingo, it was okay. It was very basic. I struggled with that when I started that years ago. But I really, really like the Rosetta Stone. They have deals every once in a while, and if you buy the deal, you get a lifetime membership, and then you can do any languages. And for the Latin one, the one I'm doing is Latin American family conversation. That's the one I started with. And then there's workplace conversations, and you can travel conversations. There's all these different ones you can do. So anyway, but yeah, things through the years, I've learned so much from my husband, and that's the thing, I think the other thing was that I very much believed in fairy tale romances and soulmates and stuff like that when we first got together, and Alex is just he's just very pragmatic and logistical, and he was like, I don't believe in soulmates. I was devastated. I was like, what do you mean you don't believe in soulmates? And he was like, no, I don't believe that there's some fate. He was like, what fate is going to put us two in the same city? That fate just put 2 people in the same city that happened to see each other at a bar one night. He's like, no, I don't believe in that kind of magical, mystical shit. I still kind of do a little bit. I like that, right? But, I still do. I love the idea of magic and mystical worlds and fate and all that kind of stuff. I do believe in it a little bit, right? But he said to me, I said, what do you believe in? He said, well, I believe that we're 2 people that met at a specific time and place in life, and we decided to spend our lives together. And he goes, don't you think that that's more powerful to choose to be in somebody's real life? And at that time, I didn't really think so. If you want to know the truth, I was like, no, I think if we're fated to be together for eternity, that's more romantic, right? But then when we were in therapy years later, and our therapist said to me, the difference between choosing to be with somebody and needing to be with somebody, I remember back to what Alex said, and it was so powerful, right? That we choose to be in each other's life. So the settling is the first thing. The second thing I would say, and this kind of goes along with the settling a little bit, is that, and I don't want by any means anybody to get the impression that what I'm saying is that I settled for my husband or that he settled for me. That's not what I'm saying. I am so in love with my husband, and I hope that he's so in love with me, and I just was so mesmerized by him when I first met him and stuff like that. But were there things that, you know, I don't know. I wish we had had more life experiences that were similar or things like that. I didn't, people always think maybe it was like the recovery thing. I never cared about that. I never dated anybody that was sober. And in all honesty, I haven't seen a lot. I've seen a few, but I haven't seen a lot of relationships that make it of sober people dating sober people unless they've been sober for a while. And so I never really cared or needed to date somebody that was sober and things like that. Like, that wasn't something that was important to me. We really didn't think that we were going to be here. I mean, we never, either one of us at the beginning, wanted to be in any kind of committed relationship at all. We had all these friends that were destined to eternity, and they're divorced and remarried and divorced and remarried and have kids from 3 marriages now and stuff. Like, it makes me sad, but it's like we were not the couple that was supposed to make it. I don't know how we ended up here, right? But I don't by any means feel like I settled with my husband. What I'm saying is that if I had looked at him at that time and been like, okay, I have to have all these things or I'm not going to stay with him, we wouldn't be together today. And I think the vice versa is true too. I think if he had looked at me and said, I want all these things, right? Like, at that time, it was very important that he wanted to go out and be very, like, you know, going out to bars and clubs, and we did a lot of that stuff. But over time, he mellowed. He doesn't do, I mean, he goes out, but he doesn't go as much as he used to. I mean, back in the day, it was like we were going out 4 or 5 nights a week. And it's not like that, you know, anymore. And so I don't think that that would be important to him. I think if he had met somebody at the time that was like, I don't ever want to go out, I think that would have been a deal breaker for Alex. I think he would have said, well, I do, and so this isn't going to work, right? Today, he doesn't feel that way. I think if he met somebody today, if he was single, and they said, well, I don't want to ever go out, he'd be like, well, that's cool, but if I want to go out every once in a while, is that okay? If they said, yeah, sure. I don't think he cares. What you care about changes over time. So I think both ways, we probably didn't match up, but what happened was we just had a really great time with each other, and we really enjoyed each other's company, and liked each other, and were kind to each other, and there was a lot of fighting at the beginning, but, you know, that's getting to know each other and stuff like that. We had a couple that's friends of ours, they had us over for dinner, I'll never forget this, and, like, in our first 2 years, like, we had a lot of arguments, and they were witness to that, and I'll never forget, they'd been married at the time for, like, let's see, their girls were probably 10 and 12 at the time, so they'd probably been married for, like, 15, 16 years at that time. They're a little bit older than me, like 5 years older than me. And I'll never forget, they said, we wanted to sit you down and have dinner and talk to you about how to, like, stay together, you know? And if you can make it through the first 3 years, you can make it through anything. And I think it's true in retrospect. I'm not saying that couples don't, whatever. I'm not saying it comes easier. I'm saying that after 3 years, and this is kind of what they said to us, you've gone through, like, everything that you're going to go through. You've gone through major losses in your life. You've gone through financial discussions. You've gone through holidays, meeting families, meeting friends. You've gone through everything you're going to go through for the rest of your marriage in the first 3 years. If you can get through that, then there's nothing you can't get through in your life, right? Like, there's nothing that you can't work on. My husband is so big on, like, we need to be a team, we need to be partners together and work through everything together. And I love that about him, right? Like, he always says that. The other thing I think is that I had these friends of mine that dated off and on for years, right? This lesbian couple. And one of my friends was in counseling with this really, really well-known counselor for LGBTQIA plus couples in Indianapolis. She's really well-known, and she wrote a book and stuff like that on relationships. And I remember my one friend was telling me, like, what the most powerful thing she learned from the book was, and I still think this today. I was just telling my neighbor this the other day. It's the 90-10 rule. And the 90-10 rule is that when you're in a relationship, and this kind of goes to the settling things, right? That when you're in a relationship, maybe you're getting 90% of what you want in that relationship. You know, maybe they're this, maybe they're that, maybe they do this, maybe they do that, right? But maybe they don't bring you flowers. Maybe they don't ever think about, like, you know, bringing you chocolates, or, you know, maybe there's, like, those little things they don't do. Or, you know, maybe you're with somebody that, like, they're really passionate about video games. When they come home, they eat dinner and watch a show with you, and then they go spend 2 hours playing video games, and it drives you crazy, right? The 90-10 rule is that people will leave the relationship where they're getting 90% of what they want for 10% of what they aren't getting. They're like, I want a man that does not spend time playing video games. I'm not talking about 20 hours. I'm talking about 2 or 3 hours a night, right? They'll be like, I want a man that is not consumed with the video games. Well, they get out of the relationship, and they get a man that doesn't care about video games, but then they got a man that don't have no job. right? And they're on them all the time. And they'll be like, oh my God, they're suffocating. Like, before I was in this relationship and this person would never, wasn't hanging out with me and things like that, wanted to play video games and whatever. Now I got somebody that won't leave me alone for 2 seconds and they don't even have a job, And then you're looking for somebody that has a job. Then you get out of that relationship and then you get yourself to have somebody that has a job and then they're working 80 hours a week. And then you're like, well, they're never home. They never see me. We're always looking for that 10% that we're never going to get, right? Instead of working out in that relationship and being honest with that person and saying, you know what, like, it kind of hurts my feelings that, like, we watch a show and then you go away for 3 hours and play video games. I mean, I have friends of mine that their husbands or wives play video games for hours on end, right? Instead of having that conversation and say, could we, like, come up with some kind of schedule, like 2 nights a week? We watch TV shows all night long, or we have a date night once a week, and we always keep that up. And then you play all the video games you want to play, right? Because I want you to be happy in your life. Instead of trying to, like, get out of that relationship and using that as an excuse for why you're unhappy, right? Or the people that get out of relationships and they're like, I'm single, I'm so happy that I'm single. And then after that first week, they're like, no man loves me, I want to be in a relationship, I can't find a woman, nobody loves me, I'm never going to be in a relationship again. Well, you fought so hard to get out of that relationship to be single, now you're single. But you want to be back in another relationship again. Work on fixing that. I'm not talking about abusive, horrible situations, okay? I'm talking about run-of-the-mill relationships. Then, oh, I should have been, now he's dating this woman and they're so happy together and I hate her. Well, why do you hate her? Well, she got him. Well, you didn't want him. You didn't want him, right? Like, I don't know. I think we live in this world where society tells us that, I feel like more and more people that are my age were sold this lie of you're going to get everything that you want to get in a partner. Well, the reality is no one human being can be that for any other person. That's just the truth, okay? I can't be that. My husband can't be that. My mom, my dad couldn't be that. My stepmom can't be that. My friends can't be that. My family, Caroline, her husband, nobody can be that. Nobody can be enough for one other person. You need to be enough for yourself, right? And then that person should complement your life. They shouldn't have to be everything for you. They shouldn't answer all that. That's literally the definition of codependency, right? And so, I don't know. I think we're sold this lie. I have a lot of friends of mine that, like, I went to high school with and, or the people that I knew in my younger years that, like, they've never been in a long-term relationship. They're never married or anything like that. And they were always just like, no, I know my worth. I mean, I can remember conversations. And I'm not saying I don't believe it. Know your worth. That's where the conversation piece comes up in a relationship. If you feel like somebody's not treating you the way that you deserve to be treated, then have that conversation. Say those things about how you're being talked to or how you, gifts that you want or flowers that you want or video game time and all that kind of stuff. Know your worth in the relationship, but don't sell yourself out. There's a lot of people that I know that never wanted to be in a relationship. That's totally fine too. I have a lot of friends of mine that have never been in a relationship, never wanted to be in a relationship, and they are happy, as they're happy as they are with their animals, no animals, living alone, they've never complained about it or anything. I'm not saying you have to be in a relationship. I'm just saying, don't miss out on the magic because you don't find Mr. or Mrs. Wonderful. I'm just saying, I don't know that Mr. or Mrs. Wonderful really exists out there. And I think a lot of us, kind of like, I don't know, sold into that idea through the years, I don't know. I remember years ago having a conversation with my dad, and my dad was somebody that always built me up to, like, follow my dreams and do all this kind of stuff and whatever. And I was really struggling. This was before I was on YouTube. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, and I said something to my dad. I think it was between relationships. It might have been between my first and my second relationship. And my dad said something to me, like, when I was growing up, never sell yourself short, always know your worth and all that kind of stuff. And I said, it's interesting to me, Dad, like, I said something to him like that, like, you always said that to me, but the truth is that for me to do that, like, I don't know that I would ever be with somebody, right? Like, because my dad, early on, I can remember, like, when I first started dating somebody, he said to me something very interesting. Well, at that time, anyway, my dad said to me, he goes, yeah, you just learned the truth of the world, didn't you? He's like, it's not so much about settling to get a relationship. It's not settling in a relationship. When you're in the relationship, don't settle and sell out on your your morals and your ethics, your principles. You know, don't compromise things. Don't go along with something that you don't believe in or be treated a way that you don't want to be treated. Work through that stuff. That's the hard part of a marriage, Peter. When my dad spoke at our wedding, my dad gave me away, Alex's mom gave him away. When my dad spoke at our wedding, he said at our wedding, he said, you know, marriage is not 50-50. People want to say it's 50-50. He goes, it's not. He goes, on any given day, it might be 100 and 0. It might be 90 and 10. It might be 70 and 30. He goes, a marriage is never, it doesn't ever feel 50-50. He goes, we can say that, but that's not how it is. Somebody might wake up and they might be mad, feel like crap, be going through something, and they only have 10% that day to get in the marriage. You know? He goes, so you got to go into your marriage, and each person has to be willing to, as much as they can, give 100% and 100%. Because you never know what that other person's going to be able to give that day. And you got to be able to lean on a person. That's what the marriage is all about, you know? And I think back on that, you know? I remember I was dating this guy when I first got sober, and, you know, I was saying all this stuff to my dad about him, and my dad said something to me that was so valuable. He goes, you have to be what you want to get. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he was like, you can't have all these high expectations for what you want, but then you're not willing to, like, give back to that in exchange, right? Like, you have to be what you want to get. And, you know, like, and I also remember, like, talking to him in marriage and things like that, and, you know, like, the camera stopped. I don't know, my dad has given me so much good advice through the years about marriage and how to work through difficulties and things like that, and I'm so incredibly grateful for he and my stepmom for just, like, really, like, I don't know, giving great wisdom and things like that. I remember when I had lunch with them and I told them that my ex and I were breaking up, or had broken up, and they just, I remember my stepmom, she just started crying. She was, like, devastated, you know, and she just was like, this makes me so sad, you know, and I said, well, I'm not going to stay in a situation where I'm unhappy. You know, and thankfully I met somebody else that I'm with. I think that, and neither one of us were happy anymore, right? But I'm such a person that wants to be in a relationship that I think, and like I've said before, like, I think we needed to be in counseling 3 years before it ended. I don't know, I might still be with him if we had, you know? I don't look back on that today. I'm incredibly happy that my husband is my husband and that my ex is happy and content in his life as well. At least I hope he is, but I think he is. And I don't think that we were meant to be together for long term, right? Like, but we shared, like, this is why when I look back on past relationships, I don't look back on them, like, and I wasn't, like, except for the one person that I dated that was so, I mean, I guess I dated 2 people, but the one person that was, like, put me down, was abusive to me with language and things like that, like, even that person, if I saw them today, I'd probably be pretty forgiving of them and things like that. I think that was, I mean, it's been over 30 years at this point. I don't know that I'd be forgiving of them. I wouldn't be like, hey, let's hang out and do that. I mean, that's not who I am today. I'm not have a desire to have relationships with my ex, but every other relationship other than that didn't end in some kind of volatile, toxic way, that was pretty understanding and things like that. I try to look back on that, like, we had good times together, and I'm thankful for those good times, and I don't try to get bitter about that, you know? So anyway, there's some relationship advice. I'm not the expert by any means, you know? That's why we stay in marriage counseling, so that we can continue to grow and change and things like that. And I'm so incredibly thankful that both of us want to stay in marriage counseling, because it's so helpful to us, especially in learning how to talk to each other and understand each other and things like that. But, okay, so last night, I went for, like, maybe it wasn't an hour and 25 minutes. I don't remember. I wrote it down in my book. I can't remember. I always like time it when I'm gone. But I have 38 minutes left of my audiobook of the Thursday Murder Club, which somebody sent me that they're making into a movie. Did I not just say that the other day? I wish this was a movie, or I don't understand why they didn't make it a movie. And it's got great people in it, you guys. It's got great people. So I'm so glad that we read it for Peter's book club. And I'm really, really loving it. It's very long. It's longer than I thought it would be, and it goes in a million different directions. And there's no way you could figure out the mystery if you just were like, I mean, it's like stuff is unveiled along the way. But the characters are so specific and unique, and I'm just loving this book. So I've got 38 minutes of it. I'm gonna take a walk. It's really, like, muggy out tonight, so I think I'm gonna walk for about 40-45 minutes and try to finish the book tonight. And then I watched, like, 4 episodes. Oh, I filmed a video last night before I went on a walk. I filmed my drama video over there. It was so hot doing that video. But I was glad today that I woke up and I didn't have to film, you know, a drama video for today and stuff like that. So I was happy about that. And it was fun last night filming out here. I hadn't filmed out here in a long time at night. I used to do it last summer. I did it, you know, a lot. And then I think I liked it so much that, like, when I have to do receipts and stuff like that, that's kind of hard. It's just like a conversation video, right? But if I know it's a day that I want to go to the pool the next day, I think I'm going to film a drama video out here. The battery's at the halfway mark, so I'm trying to, like, speed up a little bit because I don't want to change the battery. But anyway, so then when I finished that video, I think I watched 2 or 3 episodes of Survivor last night. I went to bed earlier than I usually do. I went to bed about 4 last night, and I actually fell asleep. I mean, I tossed and turned a little bit, but I slept pretty deep last night. I think I didn't take a nap last night. I didn't take a nap the night before. I love my naps, or did I take the nap the night before? I don't remember. But I've been walking instead of napping. And I think that that's kind of like the not napping is kind of catching up with me. And so, like, when I go to sleep, I'm a little bit more tired. I still fight it. I still struggle so hard to fall asleep, but when I do fall asleep, I sleep deeper, so that's good. But I watched like 3 or 4 episodes. I'm on season 3 of Survivor. If you want to watch it with me, I'm going to do season reviews after each. It's taking me like 3 or 4 days, 2 to 4 days to finish a season. I'm going to start, when I finish this season, I'm going to start season 4. They're all on Paramount. If you want to watch them with me, I'm going to do full reviews after I'm done of each season, so if you have any desire. I love watching Survivor because it's like fun drama. It's not like super serious. It's a challenge reality show. It's fun. So yeah, so I watched that, and then I went to bed, had some sleepy time tea last night. It was so hot outside that it was so like nice and cool inside. I sat in the chair. I haven't been sitting out here a lot. I've watched a couple movies out here, but I haven't really been sitting out here a lot to watch TV because it's this. It's like, I mean, I'm like picking at myself. Do you see? It's like so muggy already this year. Remind me of this in February because I love the humidity, but to like sit out here and watch a TV show for 4 hours, I don't know how I did it last summer. I mean, it's nice sitting in that chair inside in the cool. Then I got up today, took Boo Radley out, did all that kind of stuff, and then filmed a couple videos today. Had the drama video ready, so I filmed a clothing haul for my Peter Does Stuff video. A review of these Uptown energy drinks that I bought, I think I already said that, at Fresh Time, and I did a Peterisms video, and now I'm vlogging. And, oh, I know what we did. We watched Dubai last night. I thought we had 2 episodes, but I guess the new episode hadn't come out yet on Peacock, so we'll probably watch that tonight. And he's watching Love Island. So I'm going to watch Love Island. People have been asking me to watch it, so I'm going to watch it and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, and I'm going to put Farrah back up here and hang Fernalicious and go inside and see what Alex is doing. And then, yeah, I think I'm going to take a walk earlier tonight. Last night it was late and a lot of people's lights were off, and so it was so dark, and the roads out there are like not paved very well and stuff, and so they're cracked like on the side, and I like a couple times kind of like fell in the cracks and stuff like that. And so I think I want to go when it's a little bit lighter out and do my walk, but I do want to finish that book tonight. So, and then I'll come back and I'll probably watch Dubai and yeah, and all that. So anyway, I hope that you guys are having a magically amazing Wednesday. If nobody else has told you this today, I love you, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Love ya!